Seconds later, everything changed. You see, cruising at 37,000 feet is usually a marvel of modern predictability. The autopilot tracks the route, the crew monitors their screens. It's routine. But on May 21st, 2024, for the folks aboard Singapore Airlines flight SQ321, that routine turned into an absolute nightmare in a matter of seconds. This flight looked perfectly normal until something completely unexpected happened. So why did this aircraft suddenly face a situation that literally nobody anticipated? I mean, how does a state-of-the-art, wide-body jet packed with some of the most advanced weather detection tech on the planet fly directly into a severe, life-altering weather event without a single warning? To understand this mystery, we've got to look closely at what the pilots saw, and more importantly, what they didn't see. Welcome to Air Flight Space, where we explore aviation events, air safety investigations, industry developments, and the stories shaping our skies. Today, we're taking a closer look at the harrowing ordeal of Flight SQ321. We're going to delve into the ongoing investigation, the completely baffling technical anomalies, and the invisible storm that changed everything. Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Now, to really grasp the gravity of this event, we have to start with the human element. There were 229 occupants on board this massive Boeing 777-300ER. 229 lives, all trusting the intricate web of global aviation safety standards to get them safely from London Heathrow Air over to Singapore. The aircraft was cruising peacefully at 37,000 feet over southwest Myanmar. And as you probably know, at this altitude, you're well above most major weather systems. The journey is generally smooth, highly automated, and for the crew, everything about this segment of the flight felt incredibly routine. The plane was performing absolutely flawlessly. Part 1. Normal situation. Just moments before the event, the flight deck of this 777 was entirely serene. According to the investigation, both navigation displays were set to a massive 320 nautical mile range. The commanding pilot noted some high-level cirrus clouds way off in the distance, but the immediate flight path directly ahead, completely clear on their screens. The augmenting pilot confirmed this exact same observation. In fact, Singapore's Transport Safety Investigation Bureau confirmed that the cockpit voice recorder captured absolutely zero discussion about any threatening clouds over Myanmar. Part 2. The upset and escalation. The pilots had total confidence in their clear path. But this was only the beginning. Without a single warning from the instruments, the aircraft was violently thrown into a severe turbulence event. The calm of the cockpit and the cabin shattered instantly. The timeline of this upset is brief but absolutely harrowing. At 0 seconds, the turbulence begins entirely unexpectedly. The forces were so extreme that over the course of a 1-minute encounter, the crew had to intervene directly. For a terrifying 21 seconds, this massive, highly automated Boeing 777 was being flown entirely manually as the pilots desperately fought to maintain control. Finally, after 60 grueling seconds, flight stability was regained. But the physical consequences inside that cabin were devastating. Out of the 229 occupants, 80 people were injured. Think about that. 56 of those injuries were classified as serious, and tragically, 1 passenger was fatally injured. The sheer violence of those invisible air currents had turned the cabin into a chaotic, incredibly dangerous environment. Part 3. The radar mystery. Now, things were about to become even more surprising. How on earth did they hit a storm this violent without seeing it? The commanding pilot was completely shocked because the weather radar, the primary tool for avoiding exactly this kind of disaster, had shown absolutely nothing. This discrepancy is the core of the investigation. Think about the terrifying gap between the instruments and reality here. On one side, we have what the pilots saw, a completely clear radar screen with 0 weather returns. On the other side, the brutal reality outside their windows, violent, dangerous weather formations capable of ripping control of a wide-body jet right away from its autopilot. This bizarre lack of data led the Safety Bureau to suspect a chilling technical phenomenon known in aviation as underpainting. Underpainting happens when a weather radar system fails to accurately process or display the true intensity, or even the mere presence, of weather conditions directly in the aircraft's path. The radar essentially lies by omission, painting a falsely clear picture of the sky. And what makes this detail so terrifying is that the crew actively tried to find the storm. Even after the turbulence hit, when the pilots manually cranked the radar sensitivity, the gain knob, to its absolute maximum, the screen remained stubbornly blank. The weather was literally right there, beating against the airframe, but the digital display completely refused to acknowledge it. Let's track the immediate aftermath and see how this deepens the mystery. The crew swiftly and correctly opted to divert the battered aircraft to Bangkok. About 15 minutes after the incident, they were cleared to descend to 31,000 feet. Now get this. The commander could physically see clouds ahead out the window, but the radar, still blank. It was only when the aircraft descended below 31,000 feet that the system finally woke up and started painting weather returns on the nav displays. Part 4. Investigating the invisible error. What happened next shocked investigators. The Transport Safety Investigation Bureau knew they couldn't just look at this single flight in isolation, right? They had to ask, was this a freak, one-time glitch, or a hidden systemic issue within the fleet? Diving into the airline's Boeing 777 maintenance records, covering roughly 29,000 flights, they found 12 separate reports of radar underpainting. But here is the absolute kicker. Out of those 12 reports, 2 of them, submitted on April 29th and May 1st of 2024, were from this exact incident aircraft. Just weeks prior, this specific plane had exhibited the very issue suspected in this fatal turbulence event. The radar manufacturer, however, strongly pushed back. Following extensive testing of the hardware removed from the aircraft, they issued a firm official statement. They claimed there is no evidence that the radar was not detecting and displaying the weather encountered. They completely disputed the validity of tests conducted by the crew during the ferry flight back to Singapore. But the Safety Bureau stood their ground. They stated that evidence suggests the radar might indeed have had an underpainting issue, pointing out that investigators observed some unusual behaviors during the manufacturer's own tests. And most chillingly, they noted that a radar system doesn't generate any fault message when it underpaints. It looks like it's working perfectly, leaving crews totally blind to the malfunction. Part 5. Real-world impact. This brings us to a massive roadblock in aviation safety. How do investigators definitively prove an invisible glitch when the primary piece of evidence simply vanishes into thin air? Well, this is the missing link. The inquiry hit a huge wall because there was, and currently is, no means of recording the actual weather radar images presented to the crew during the flight. We've got flight data, we've got voice audio, sure, but we cannot see the exact screen the pilots were looking at when they made those split-second decisions. Without that visual record, it's essentially a battle of hypotheses. To prevent this mystery from ever repeating, investigators are demanding urgent industry changes. The International Civil Aviation Organization, or ICAO, already requires crew-machine interface recordings on new large aircraft certified after January 1, 2023. But the Safety Bureau says there is immense value in extending this rule retroactively to older aircraft of the same size. Furthermore, they are formally recommending that radar manufacturers actually develop the technology to record the exact weather images displayed to crews in real time. So, what can we learn from this story? Flight SQ321 is a stark reminder that while technology has made flying safer than ever, it is absolutely not infallible. When the digital eyes of an aircraft fail silently, the results can be catastrophic. It leaves us with a lingering, provocative question as aviation tech continues to advance. Can we fully trust the screens in front of us, or is human intuition and vigilance still our absolute last line of defense in the sky? Thanks for watching Airflight Space. If you enjoy aviation investigations, aviation news, aircraft analysis, and stories from the world of flight, subscribe. Leave a like if you learned something new. And tell us in the comments, what are your thoughts on this situation?